The bill to amend the Transitional Justice Act has been tabled at the Parliament. Conflict victims and human rights defenders had been objecting to the several provisions in the bill since it formulated into an act back in 2014. They have called for a revision to appeal the decision of a special court that will decide on insurgency-era cases and remove the statute of limitations on such cases, among others. Good morning, I'm Amar Singh Pradhan, and these are the top stories of the hour. Bill related to transitional justice tabled at the Parliament 8 years after Supreme Court directed for amendment in laws. Preparations to conclude on the bill through ongoing House session. Victims doubt receiving justice. Ruling parties yet to reach consensus on share of seats for upcoming elections. Nepali Congress deploys representatives in all districts. CPN UML decide to wage a single-handed competition. Ukraine marks 31 years of independence in what is certain to be a day of subdued yet defiant celebrations, overshadowed by fears of new Russian missile attacks. And League Two strugglers Crawley Town knocks out Premier League newcomers Fulham out of the League Cup with a 2-0 drubbing. Leicester, Wolves, Aston Villa advance. The bill related to the transitional justice has been tabled at the Parliament 8 years after the Supreme Court had directed for amendment in the laws. However, victims of the conflict era have shared their doubts over getting justice from the proposed laws. A reserved approach from the largest party of the Parliament, main opposition CPN UML, has also not helped the cause of the victims. The government is making preparations to conclude the bill through the ongoing session of the House of Representatives itself. The amendment bills for the Commission of Investigation on Enforced Disappeared Persons and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission have categorized incidents of violations of human rights in two groups. Parliamentarians will now be able to propose amendments on the provisions of the bill registered at the House of Representatives. Saying that reconciliation was not possible in serious cases of violation of human rights, the Supreme Court had directed the government to amend laws 8 years ago. However, the bills do not clearly identify the nature of incidents of violation of human rights and have therefore drawn massive criticism. The bill says cruel murder or murder after torture, rape, enforced disappearance as inhuman and not amnestiable, but surprisingly doesn't list war crimes and crimes against humanity under serious human rights violations. The victims have thus expressed their doubts over receiving justice. They are not satisfied with the provision which prohibits appeal on verdicts of a special court to decide on the cases. Since the establishment, the two commissions have spent almost 5 billion rupees in the past 8 years. In the absence of laws, these entities have also been limited to registering complaints. The government is expediting endorsement of the bill as the term of these commissions are set to expire in about a month's time. The meeting of the task force formed to decide on seat allocation of the ruling coalition for the November 20 elections has ended inconclusively yet again. The meeting of the task force held at the Prime Minister's official residence in Balwatar yesterday ended without any headway on what looks like an ever-elusive seat-sharing equation. The task force formed under the leadership of Congress leader Krishna Prasad Sitaula has not been able to form a substantial ground and has rather indulged in minor issues. Sitaula himself was absent from the meeting, which led to yesterday's meeting ending inconclusively. The task force has been assigned the responsibility of allocating 165 seats in direct category of the House of Representatives and 330 seats of the provinces. The parties in the alliance have so far agreed to allocate seats on the basis of results from the previous provincial and parliamentary election and the recently concluded local level elections in May. The main opposition CPN UML are to begin their campaign without forming any alliance for the upcoming provincial and parliamentary elections with the target of forming a majority government under their own leadership. At yesterday's standing committee meeting, the party decided to furnish a political report with its strategies at the Central Committee meeting slated for 26th and 27th of August. Party chairperson KP Sharma Oli will be presenting the report. The meeting yesterday delved into the party's current political strengths, activities of the ruling coalition and preparation of other parties for the upcoming elections. The main opposition has the target of gaining majority votes in the elections to form a majority government. Chairperson Oli briefly informed the meeting about the political report and asked for recommendations from the attending members. The political report will include topics including recent national and international political affairs, activities of the ruling coalition, the party's organizational aspects and activities to be carried out in the days ahead. Largest party of the ruling coalition, Nepali Congress, has directed its central representatives to initiate electoral campaigns in all the 77 districts. The election campaign of Nepali Congress, which will be held in 3 phases, is set to begin on Friday. The first phase of the campaign is set to run from the 26th of August until BP Jayanti on 8th of September. The second phase from the date of registration for proportionate candidates, and the third phase will begin from the date of registration of direct candidates. The party has also directed the central representatives to reach the related districts 2 days before the beginning of the campaign to ensure its success. The representatives have also been directed to increase collaboration among other coalition parties. All the 84 parties registered for the upcoming provincial and parliamentary elections have been termed authenticated to compete at the November 20th elections. The Election Commission has termed all parties registered for the November 20 polls as qualified and authentic. As 4 groups are to use the same election symbol, the total number of parties competing at the election will now stand at 80. Of the 116 parties recognized by the Election Commission, 84 had registered for the provincial and parliamentary elections. The Commission had introduced the provision for using the same election symbol for parties forming alliances. And time now for our segment Public Pulse, where it texts us with their opinion.
Public Pulse.
And your question is, why has the government's agriculture grant not reached the targeted beneficiaries? Your options are: option A, grants exploited by those with access; option B, lack of monitoring; and option C, lack of access. The voting is on. Type in AWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share opinion with us. And in our Public Voice segment, we had asked the general public what should be done to conclude insurgency era cases. Let's take a look at what they have to say.
Public Voice.
तलैबाट छलफल गरेर समस्याको समाधान गर्दाखेरि उपयुक्त हुन्छ।
राष्ट्रिय राजनैतिक रूपबाट सहमति अपनाउँदै कानुनी प्रक्रियाबाट यसलाई टुङ्ग्याउनु पर्छ।
आफूले जिम्मेवारी पाइसकेपछि आफ्नो समस्या आफ्नो निकास निस्किसकेपछि उहाँहरू त्यति गम्भीर देखिराख्नु भएको छैन।
सामान्य प्रकृतिका मुद्दाहरू छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ राज्यले माफी दिएर अगाडि बढाउनु पर्छ।
न्यायको अनुभूति हुने गरी सरकार पक्षले टुङ्ग्याउनु पर्छ।
2 थरी बसेर छलफल गरेर
जुन बेपत्ता छन् तिनीहरूलाई सार्वजनिक गरिनुपर्छ।
वास्तविक तथ्याङ्क सङ्कलन गर्ने, कानुनी जटिलताहरू सुल्झाउने।
जीविकोपार्जनका कुराहरू छन्। अब विभिन्न घाइते अपाङ्गहरू पनि हुनुहुन्छ, उहाँहरू अहिलेसम्म न्याय नपाएर लडिराख्नु भएको छ।
विशेष अदालत बनाएर मुद्दा छिनोफानो गर्दा पनि हुन्छ।
उनीहरूका चाहिँ बालबच्चाहरूलाई चाहिँ जीवन स्तर उकास्दिनु पर्यो।
कुरो हत्या गर्नेहरू, यौनजन्य हिंसा गर्नेहरू यस्तोलाई त्यसै च्वाटो छोड्ने हुन।
And now time for sports update.
Sports news.
Sports venues are being constructed for the 9th National Games slated between 14th and 20th of October in Gandaki province. Locations for 38 events, including 2 exhibition matches, will be decided by 31st of August. Pokhara is the main host of the National Games. Gandaki province is expediting preparations for the National Sporting Fiesta, the National Games. With less than 2 months left for the Games, selection of venues is almost complete. Most of the events will be held at the Pokhara Stadium, while other sporting events will be hosted in 10 other districts of the province. Works related to sports infrastructures are now in the final phase, while 14 subcommittees have been formed to conclude the selection of athletes, their training and venues. The National Sports Council is organizing the games based on the federal structure for the first time. And those were our latest headlines. Thank you for staying with us. Have a good day.